Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November the 28th, 2025. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good, as you already know. This is a follow-up episode, back-to-back episode, bonus, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I figured, since we missed Thursday, had a little bit of extra news, leftovers, if you will. So I figured, hey, let's just go ahead and, go through some more stories. So yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup. No extra blogging necessary, I felt. And we'll go ahead and get into it. Yeah. Start with some water. I will say, this is a bit of side talk. I guess I am going to blog a little bit. I've been watching and diving into Claire Obscura 33 gameplay. And I have thoughts. I have much to say about this game. I feel many things about it, good, bad, otherwise, and I'd like to express them. But it's very confusing. But anyway, I don't know. I wanted to put that out somewhere in the universe. Things I've been thinking about. I was literally at the Thanksgiving table going through the story of this game, just trying to make heads and tails of it. All right, our first story comes from NPR. Israeli forces kill Palestinian men in West Bank after they appear to surrender. Israeli forces on Thursday killed a pair of Palestinian men in the occupied West Bank after they appeared to surrender to troops, drawing Palestinian accusations that the men were executed in cold blood. The Israeli military said it was investigating. The killings, captured in videos on two Arab TV stations, came as Israel pressed ahead with its latest offensive in the West Bank, where the army has stepped up its activities over the past 2 days. Israel says it is cracking down on militants, but Palestinians and rights groups accuse Israel of using excessive force and say dozens of unarmed civilians have been killed. Israel has been fighting on a number of fronts. This is where they mention Lebanon in this article, but we're going to maybe mention that a little bit later. I'm going to keep reading. A Palestinian-American teenager held in Israeli detention for 9 months was also released on Thursday night. The 16-year-old emerged visibly thin and was embraced by his crying family. The Israeli military and national police announced they were opening an investigation into the deaths Thursday of the two men who were shot by members of the Border Police, a special unit that often operates alongside the Israeli military. In a video shown on Palestinian TV, which has no sound, the two men come out of the garage holding their hands up and lifting their shirts just so they are not carrying explosives. They are ordered to the ground and kicked by one of the policemen. They are then ordered back to the garage. In a video shown by Egyptian TV station Al Gad, the men are ordered back to the entrance of the garage. As they are on the ground and surrounded by troops, gunshots are heard, and the men slump down, apparently lifeless. At least one soldier is seen firing his weapon. In a statement, the Israeli military said the two men were wanted militants in the northern town of Jenin who had thrown explosives and opened fire at the troops, which is like, okay, but they literally showed you they had nothing on them. You had them detained, and then they went back in, which, unless you're saying, oh, no, in the audio that you didn't hear, they went in against our, wishes, our commands. But it's like, if you put them in there and then just, decide to do this then after, Well, that's an execution. That's not, you guys saying, hey, we were defending ourselves or anything like that. Nothing like that. Nothing of the sort. But let's continue. It is said that after the men surrendered and exited the building, fire was directed toward the suspects. It was the incident. It said the incident was under review and will be referred to the relevant professional bodies. Palestinians and human rights groups say such investigations yield few results, and Israeli troops are rarely prosecuted. Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who oversees the national police, praised the Israeli forces, saying they acted exactly as they are expected to. Terrorists must die. In Ramallah, the Palestinian Prime Minister accused Israel of executing the men in cold blood and called the shooting an outright extrajudicial killing in blatant violation of international human law. Palestinian authorities identified the men as Muntasir Abdullah, 26, and Yusuf Asasa, I'm sure I'm fucking that up, 37, and said Israel had taken away their bodies. The incident was, they go through a story of Elor Azaria, but we're going to go ahead and skip ahead of that. The shooting is a part of a larger operation in the northeastern region of the West Bank. Israel's military had detained more than 100 people since Tuesday in the town of Tubas, according to Abdullah al-Zaghari, spokesman for the advocacy group Palestinian Prisoners Club. Let's see here. I wanted to skip ahead a little bit, and they did talk about Lebanon. The Pope visited, but I wanted to skip to this part here. The United Nations on Tuesday said Israel had killed at least 127 civilians, including children, in its strikes on Lebanon since the ceasefire came into effect 1 year ago. So since the ceasefire they had with Lebanon over Hezbollah and saying, hey, you guys got to push back, out of this buffer zone, yada, 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 these killings have still gone on. And that is a low-end number. I've heard a number as high as 300 in terms of killings since that ceasefire has been put into place since a year. Which is crazy to think that time's kind of like moved in that way on just that part alone in this whole conflict. But then it just is a reminder that it's like, once again, it's always so constant. The fact that there is some kind of killing, some kind of strike. We did cover the one recently, which is the chief of staff, what they may mention in this article. So yeah, I mean, it's weird to say, okay, yeah, that's still a ceasefire, I guess it's still holding, I suppose. But let me see. I wanted to skip here to the last part of the article. Mohammed Ibrahim, an American teenager held in Israeli custody for 9 months, was released Thursday evening and immediately checked into a hospital, his uncle told the Associated Press. Visibly thin, head shaven, and still in a gray jumpsuit, Ibrahim wiped tears away as he was embraced by family members shortly after his release in videos taken by the family. His father, Zahir Ibrahim, kissed his son and began to cry. He's skinny and pale, and his eyes are sunken in, and he still has signs of scabies, said Zayad Kadir, the uncle. The teen was visiting family in the West Bank with his parents when he was arrested at his family's home at night for allegedly throwing rocks at Israeli settlers in the West Bank, according to the Council on American Islamic Relations and several members of Congress. In an affidavit, Muhammad said he only confessed to stone throwing after he was threatened by interrogators with a beating. His family and lawyers said he was held in poor conditions, suffered scabies infection, and lost weight in jail. And when they say weight, I heard like a percentage of about almost half of his body weight that he lost being in detention. So, I felt like these stories were all very important. I'm glad that they actually did wrap in the Lebanese part of this as well. So we can kind of talk about that all in one go. But we're going to move on to The Independent. Actually, let me take a water break. All right. Survivors on narco boat targeted by Trump order were blown apart after Hegseth verbal command to kill everybody. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly gave a verbal order to leave no survivors behind as Donald Trump's administration launched the first of more than a dozen attacks on alleged drug running boats that have killed more than 80 people over the last 3 months. So I'm sure that is an update in and of itself, because I know we've missed some strikes and some of the killings, extrajudicial killings. I feel like I need to add there. But on the September 2nd, U.S. military personnel fired a missile striking a vessel in the Caribbean that carried 11 people accused of trafficking drugs into the United States. When 2 survivors emerged from the wreckage, a special operations commander overseeing the attack ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions to kill everybody, according to the Washington Post, citing officials with direct knowledge of the operation. Now, apparently The Intercept had came out with the story saying this like days after the incident. So I feel like this was something that was kind of already in the mill. Like this was something that people were already talking about. And I mean, it's a pattern that has been shown by this administration, by Hegseth, that we are going along with the strategy that we are allowed to, that we don't have to go through Congress or anything like that. We are completely justified to just kill people in this way. And we have no signs of stopping that. So, I felt like with it making the rounds news-wise, like today, I was like, hey, we'll just go ahead and throw it on the pile, go ahead and highlight it. These guys are unabashed about this. They do not care. They feel completely justified and vindicated in doing so. They've also added, Trump has said, hey, there's potential that we're going to be doing land strikes in Venezuela very soon. So, yeah, there's that. He just keeps flirting with that, keeps dancing with that dagger. We're going to keep it and end off with the Trump administration, Trump sphere. With actually the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break, and then we will go ahead and close it out. I will say things have been feeling very winter-ish lately over the past couple days. Dealing with under 30, sub 30 temperatures. That's where I'm like definitely cold. I mean, granted, I've said before, once it's under 62, I don't like it. I'm calling myself cold. It's a bit nippy, but it's almost like, from there it kind of goes down, in gradients or, I don't know, zones. And once we're like under 32 degrees, we're in the freezing territory. I'm like, I need 2 jackets ASAP. But, we're making it through. I feel overall, ready for it, or as ready as I'll ever be. I will say defrosting the car never feels good. Never, ever. Especially when it's cold like that. Anyway, let's get to the news. Let's close it out. From NBC News, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's relative detained by ICE. Officials have detained the mother of White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's nephew amid the Trump administration's ramped-up immigration efforts. A source familiar with the matter confirmed to NBC News. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, agents took the woman into custody in Revere, Massachusetts, this month, the source said. A Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said Bruna Caroline Fieria, is a criminal illegal alien from Brazil who overstayed her tourist visa, which expired in June of 1999. The woman has an arrest on suspicion of battery, the spokesperson said. It is not clear how the case was resolved. But it sounds like the word resolved is being used here. It was not, So it's like to sit here and say, hey, well, they're a criminal. It's like, what are we talking about here? Whatever happened is a thing that has, been done and dusted. There's no need to say, okay, well, you don't get to be here because you did a wrong that you've already, dealt with. Anyway, I guess that's not American anymore. Fieria, who the source familiar with the situation said has never lived with Leavitt's nephew, is at the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center amid proceedings to have her removed, the DHS spokesperson said. Under President Donald Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, the spokesperson said, all individuals unlawfully present in the United States are subject to deportation. The source said Leavitt's nephew has lived full-time in New Hampshire with his father since he was born, has never resided with his mother, and has not spoken with her in many years. The story was first reported by Boston University public broadcaster and news platform WBUR. Leavitt declined to comment to WBUR. Fieria's family said in a GoFundMe campaign that she was brought to the United States as a child in 1998 and that she has done everything in her power to build a stable, honest life here. It says she maintained her legal status in the United States by receiving protection under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, program, which seeks to allow immigrants brought to the United States as children, albeit illegally, to enjoy protection from removal. The Associated Press reported Tuesday that DACA recipients have been among those detained in immigration sweeps. Homeland Security spokesperson Tristan McLaughlin said in a statement published in the Associated Press story Tuesday that DACA recipients can lose status for a number of reasons, including if they've committed a crime. But once again, you're saying crime as if we're supposed to infer that they've just done something and now that they're getting deported. It's like, no, you're saying we went through your records, saw that you've done an infraction, big, small, whatever, and we're saying, yeah, you're a criminal, and we're going to kick you out. And not to mention, too, there's plenty of situations where they have done these immigration sweeps. People here are completely legal merits, and you're saying, nope, you're just not here legally, actually. We're changing the rules, and you're illegal enough, and we're kicking you out now. So, I mean, I guess this is kind of a bit of cruel irony that it's hitting close to home at people in the Trump administration. I'm sure Leavitt's not the only one. It's just this is a high-profile name where you get to actually see this. But you also see her not saying much. I haven't heard her say anything about it. And I'm sure even if she did, she would just say, okay, this is just due process. I believe someone like a Pam Bondi said that in effect for the administration. So I'm not surprised to see that stance. I'm not surprised to, hear the silence there from Leavitt on that, but it is what it is. This is obviously not the only story, and this is something that, once again, is affecting so many people in America right now. So, I felt like it was worth talking, and, if, at least not just for the, once again, the grim irony. But anyway, that's all I got for today for the old back-to-back double whammy. Once again, sorry for missing that day, the old turkey time, the old Thanksgiving. And I really hope that you did have a good Thanksgiving yourself. I don't know if I said that previously. Hopefully you did have a good, I think I said it, at some point, but whatever. Hopefully you did have a good Thanksgiving or just a good Thursday in general. That is my favorite day of the week anyway. So regardless of whether it's festive or not. But yeah, I'm not going to shill. We already did that previously. So, I'm sure in the next episode, you'll get the whole Monty there. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.